The iMore Show is brought to you today by SoftLayer. SoftLayer delivers a cloud built on demand. Your business applications and compute workloads are different from everybody else's, so you deserve cloud resources that meet your unique needs. SoftLayer is an IBM company and is the cloud infrastructure foundation for all IBM cloud products and services. Even if you're not looking for infrastructure, you can benefit from SoftLayer infrastructure when you use platform or software services for IBM Cloud. All of our listeners have the opportunity to get $500 of cloud infrastructure by visiting softlayer.com/podcast. That's softlayer.com/podcast. Thank you, SoftLayer. It is August 21, 2015. I'm Rene Ritchie, and right now we're going to talk about all the news in the week that was Apple while we wait for the bigger news that will be 2 weeks in Apple. This is the iMore Show. Joining me today, we have Serenity Caldwell. How you doing, Ren?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Renee?
Good. We've had less storms.
We have, yes, fewer things attacking our power lines, which is always good.
But it has been miserably hot. Miserably hot.
Yes, we actually had our air conditioner stop working because the compressor had been running so long, which was a very tumultuous and sad evening. But we fixed it, so it's all good.
Woo.
First world problems.
First world air conditioning problems. Also joining us again after her expedition that included shark diving, apparently, Georgia Dow. How are you, Georgia?
Why do you say apparently?
Because there could be other things. Like, I only heard
Okay.
about the shark diving. I mean, there could have been, you could have dropped out of a plane in an Iron Man suit for all I know.
Yeah, I didn't do that. There were no mechs involved. That's too bad, though I did go to Islands of Adventure at Universal, which was amazing, and I got to see Harry Potter World, which was phenomenal.
So you just be, if people are interested in your shark diving escapades, they can listen to this week's episode of Vector where you talk about, cages are for weenies. I don't need a cage.
No, they never dive with the cage. The cage is just there mostly for show, for people that are really scared, but I have no natural fear of animals. So I was like, okay,
You have
no one's ever died from this, let's do it.
That's how people get eaten, Georgia.
I know. I thought, I don't want to be up for a Darwin Award, but I'm here.
So if you want to hear all about that and you want to hear about Guy English's solution, which involves punching the sharks, big surprise there, just go check out this week's Vector. Kays are peaceful people. Just don't bring us near sharks. All right, so Serenity, we have some awesome, terrific, I want to do a whole other Snoopy dance, but I'm afraid of dropping my iMac again, Apple Music book news.
We do. The book is out. It is available. It is on the iBook store and the Kindle store. So
What?
I know. Mind-blowing. You can get our Apple Music book, which is chock full of all things Apple Music, iTunes, music app, special secret tips, Siri explanations, how to use Siri very appropriately to get what you want.
Or even inappropriately.
Or inappropriate.
It's
Yes, exactly.
all there.
Siri, give me the bleeping song. No, that is not a command we suggest using. But you can do all kinds of things, including organizing playlists, downloading music, following your favorite artists on Connect, how to upload music, how to use Apple Music without iCloud Photo Library. We have it all packed into this book. And I apparently conservatively estimated the page count when I uploaded it to Amazon. Amazon counts pages. And I had said it's probably equivalent of a 150-page print book. And when I uploaded it to Amazon, Amazon's like, no, it's the equivalent of a 343-page print book. So,
So you're getting your money's worth.
yes, for $5
This book.
for
See,
about
we have
the
people on
cost
Twitter.
of a venti coffee.
We had
What?
people on Twitter going, whoa, 150, whoa, oh my goodness, there's so much more.
Yeah, it's so surprise and delight. We worked really, really hard on this book, and even if you're not a huge Apple Music aficionado or you don't care that much, but you want to support us so that we can make more books, buying this book is a great way to do so. And it also, the more money we can make from non-advertising related opportunities, the more it allows us to pull terrible advertising related opportunities from our website. So if you like ad-free content from iMore, this is
Buy
a
the Apple
great-
Music book.
Yes, please buy the Apple Music book. We do, if this does well, we do have plans for more books later this year, but we need your support. So if you can do that for us, iMore readers, we will be forever grateful. And I'm also going to write a post, hopefully in the next week, about how we did all of this crazy rigmarole. I think, a lot of people, ebooks to a lot of people are like, oh God, this thing is so terrifying. What do I have to do? And spoiler alert, in 2015, it's a lot easier than when I started creating ebooks in 2010. Especially with iBooks Author allowing you to make EPUBs, and moreover, EPUBs that are not locked to the Apple iBook Store environment, which is the way that the original iBooks Author format .ibooks was. So there's lots of cool stuff coming down the pipe in related to books. And if you want to learn more about Apple Music, or you have a friend who wants to learn more about Apple Music, or if you just want to support iMore, please, please, please buy the book. We will be forever grateful and give you like smiles and high fives and thumbs ups if we see you in person.
And I'm just saying, they make wonderful gifts. Wonderful one. I've gifted the book, I think, 10 times already, but I'm super excited about it.
Yep.
Yep. Someone keeps on asking you questions about Apple Music. Just buy them the book.
It's your key to a peaceful life. And $5 is literally buying you peace of mind.
It's the way to live stress-free.
All right, so we also have our Switch to iPhone contest up and running. So all you have to do is go on Twitter, and I'm going to presume most of you already have an iPhone. But if you want another one, or you just know somebody who is stuck using a Samsung or a Motorola or
you can just
aging
tweet
BlackBerry.
someone else that's using another phone, and tell them switch to the iPhone.
Just go to Twitter, say, hey, at iMore, I want to switch to iPhone, hashtag switch to iPhone, and then give us a reason. And the contest runs until this Wednesday, so you got to get a little bit of pep in your step now. Got to hurry up and do it, but it should be fun. Just, who doesn't want a bunch of money towards a nice new iPhone? Nobody.
And we really do give this, like, you really do get one. This is
one
not
away last
spam.
month.
This happens all the time, so you can't win unless you play.
Also, iMore is now, if you are running the iOS 9 beta and your region is set to US and you have the News app, iMore is now working in the News app. You can go there, you can just search for iMore, it's the top result, add it, you'll see beautiful, all our stories are in there. There's categories you can choose from, like reviews and apps and how-tos and all that kind of stuff. And it's working really well for me, but please do test it out for yourself, because it took us a while to make sure that it was working that way. But it should be nice for those of you lucky enough to get the News app come iOS 9. All right, we have a few things to discuss this week. One is the iPad Pro. After being quiet for a while, Ren, it is roaring back to attention. An analyst said that it is coming with its Force Touch pen, which I'm assuming is analyst talk for the device having Force Touch and there being a pen to work with it.
Yes.
Because the pen having Force Touch doesn't excite me that much.
How do you Force Touch a pen, anyway?
Squeeze pen harder for more ink.
And the other thing is the resolution, which is 2732 by 2048, and that it's running iOS 9.1. Now, none of this stuff is a surprise for anyone who runs any sort of analytics on their website and has anyone from Cupertino hitting those websites. But I think it's still interesting because we keep hearing about this, Ren, but it hasn't. It's like it's always coming, but never quite arriving.
Yeah, I agree. Here's the thing: iPad Pro has probably been in testing for at least a year, if not more. We are seeing iPad Pro potentially like objects pop up on our analytics, and as well as the analysts are like, oh hey, these things, these dimensions are not like any iPad we've ever seen. Yeah, I would not be surprised to see an iPad Pro sometime. I still am unsure when it is going to come out. The reports this week were very much insinuating that, oh, well, it's going to come out, it's going to fragment the way that the iPad originally fragmented iOS, and it's going to come out with iOS 9.1, and all the other devices are going to have 9, and it's going to be, it's going to be divisive. And no, I just think that it will probably come out later than the devices that have 9.0. So it's entirely, I don't think we're going to see an iPad Pro in September. I might be wrong, but I'm thinking that they'll probably launch that as its own separate event.
Well, they said that one of the analysts said they were going to start manufacturing it in September or October, and that's really late for to get it out in time for the holidays. They
Yep.
could, I mean, so that we have the situation. Georgia, I'm going to give you a few options, and you tell me what you would prefer. So one is that they show it in September along with the iPhone and Apple TV and have a really crowded event, and like Serenity said, disparate operating systems and devices. One is they show it off in October during the traditional iPad event slot, and they have 9.1 for everybody around that time. Another thing is the Apple Watch strategy, where it's not going to be ready in time for the holidays, but they still want to announce it, so they show it off in October and say it's going to be shipping later, early 2016 or something. Do any of those seem more likely to you?
I think that them showing it off in October and then it ships out somewhere in December or later, I think is a better strategy. I think that it preps us already, and it's the iPad event, and everyone's going to want to take a look at the new iPads. So I think that they're ready for one. I think that the market is ready to have a bigger iPad. I think that I would be interested in one, especially since now that the iPads are so very light, that being large is not going to make it a heavy, cumbersome device. So I can't wait. I would love to see it earlier because more new tech earlier is great. But I don't like having crowded shows. I like for them to really go in depth in each show and deal with all of the different things that are out there. And so I'm hoping for October.
Yeah, I was talking to Serenity about this, and I really want it because my background is in illustration, and the idea, like I've flirted with buying a Surface several times just to use the sketching, but I would literally use it for nothing else, and I don't want to. It's like it's the height of a unitasker to buy a Surface just to do the sketching. But if I had it in a device that I'd want to otherwise use, it's just pure bonus. And plus, I can't wait to see what Serenity's Instagram account looks like when she has one of these.
I think that also
my
for people
God.
that are have different disabilities and people that are elderly, having a larger device is better for them. It's easier to read. My mom has difficulty with zooming. She still forgets about like what a capacitive screen really means, so she doesn't understand with her nails. And so she doesn't know that she can zoom, and that's fine. So having a larger iPad would be great for her. And I think also for the workforce, yes, definitely if you're illustrating or sketching, but also if you're going to want to be putting things onto a display, using this as a display makes it much easier. We sometimes, even when we do some of our videos for iMore, we use that as a way of putting down the script and we can read it. That makes life so much easier. So I've been waiting. I love the Air, but I'd love a larger iPad.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me. Like Ren, do you need a larger so like for me the reasons for so let me back up for a second. iPad
But
Pro
is it
Pro
really
has
need, Renee? For
no,
us, is
no,
it
so
need?
hold on a second. Well, I mean for a market category because the iPad already like one of the arguments is they're doing this because the traditional iPad is no longer selling well, but this is going further towards a niche. A larger product is and a pro product is by definition a smaller addressable market. So what makes it pro? Like a stylus, yeah, makes it pro. Will it have like an Apple branded keyboard the way the Surface does? Will it be able to edit 4K? I mean, like Ren, what features would actually make this a pro? Would make this a device that deserves to exist in the Steve Jobs parlance?
Well, in terms of pro, we have to look at what kind of market, what kind of professional market needs a professional tablet or a tablet that's suitable for pro level work. We've seen already that the regular iPad is more than competent for some people. I'm Fatici, for doing typing and your general, back and forth work, and the split screen and all of that is going to promote that and make that much easier to accomplish. But when we're talking about true professional level work, I'm thinking enterprise and I'm thinking creative. For enterprise, the big question to me is how it's going to be integrated into businesses. Obviously, folks in airplanes are already using iPads for digital maps and things like that. People in hospitals are using iPads. So I can see a larger iPad being useful more as a stationary device than a portable device, specifically for things like museum kiosks and the like, or in hospital waiting rooms, or on tables in restaurants. Like I can see it integrating itself into that kind of sphere. If they want it to be like a carry-around tablet for enterprise work, they've got to. I don't know. I feel like you have to
Built-in backpack.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I mean the screen size here we're talking about is not that much larger. It's 12
12
inches.
point something,
Yeah.
yeah.
12.9.
Exactly. 12 inches is not gargantuan for a tablet. It's about the same size as I think the smallest Cintiq, and will likely be a good deal lighter than the smallest Cintiq, the 12UX. So I've held it the 12UX before, and that's not huge. That's definitely
It's
portable.
MacBook Airy.
Exactly, exactly. So you're looking at something that again is more convertible, where you can work at it at a desk, but then you can pick it up and walk it around. But I definitely see it more as a stationary item than, say, the 10-inch iPad. When it comes to the creative side, a professional iPad, I mean, what I really want from it, and I think what people have been wanting from it for years now, is pressure sensitivity.
Hmm.
And whether or not Force Touch will be able to deliver on pressure sensitivity in the way that professional artists want it to, is a big question. I think Force Touch is crazy magic, and I would be really interested to see how it works. But I don't know how Apple's going to tackle that. Especially, Wacom has been the leader in that market for years and years and years, doing capacitive stylus technology. And I'm very curious to see Apple's implementation there. And
Yeah.
as an artist, very excited because you know what, I love Wacom's tablets, their plug-in tablets. I think that anytime Wacom tries to build software, it's less than impressive. So the idea of a company whose software I love, even with its bugs, building a graphics tablet. And I mean, we've talked, this is again, a far out reaching hope for a pro device. Rich Stevens and I have been like championing this cause for 2 years. But the idea of the pro actually becoming an accessory from your Mac when it's in proximity, almost like a Bluetooth accessory, where, like the Cintiq, for example, when your iPad Pro is maybe close enough to your iMac, it becomes a surface that you can draw on. There are third-party apps like AstroPad that work with this very well. And I've spoken to the AstroPad creators, and they're very excited about Force Touch. So, like, even if Apple doesn't implement that kind of technology, there are still third-party apps that would make a professional, especially one with real pressure sensitivity, a huge boon for professional creatives.
Yeah.
If you could use a touch screen both with your Mac and on the go without having to buy into Wacom's Android area with their Cintiqs, it's pretty tempting.
And theoretically, unlike Wacom, Apple doesn't need an intermediary layer between the screen and the sensor to do all this.
Correct.
So it should be a better. If it works, it'll be a better quality display too.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. So next in the headlines, Georgia, we've heard previously about rose gold iPhones, maybe to match the rose gold Apple Watch, but now there's a rumor that there might be a bright Brett the Hitman Heart pink iPhone as well.
I like the idea of if there was really a rose gold that was not like something that is shockingly pink. I think shockingly pink, they would really cut their market out to being young teenage girls or people that really want to show off that it's pink and it's an iPhone and I have it. So I think that if they did the rose gold iPhone and the picture does look pretty stunning, I might change from buying. I've always bought a black
Well,
iPhone
hold on. So
or space
rose
gray.
gold or pink? Like which?
I would do rose gold. Rose gold,
Okay.
I think, is the way. If Apple did rose gold, though I would be using a case, so I probably wouldn't see much of the rose gold. Anyways, I would go for it. I think I would do it. I would do a rose gold iPhone. But if they do like a pink iPhone that's, one that's kind of like in the plasticky color pink pastel-y type of a pink, I would not be interested for a moment, and I don't think that many of them would sell.
Do the pictures look plastic? It looks like a metallic
They
pink.
they look like the rose gold. It looks
Well, no, I
like
think
the
this is.
rose.
Yeah, I can't tell if there's a rose gold and a pink, or this pink is the rose gold.
No,
But
that's the rose gold.
I don't know.
It looks like some picture. It looks like it's been, rendered differently each time because on some places, on some of the pictures, it looks like it's a much darker pink than the MacBook, but in most of the pictures, it looks a much lighter MacBook kind of rose gold, which I'd be really interested in, which I didn't think that I would. But if it's a shocking pink, then my interest wanes. It's just too shocking for me. And I think that for most people, I think a lot of them would not sell.
I'm having
And
trouble. I'm looking at the watch. I'm looking at the watch and Ren, you've seen the rose gold watch in real
Yeah, I
life.
have.
It doesn't look as pink as some of those iPhone pink photos do.
No, I mean, we also have to remember the lighting that those photos were probably taken in.
Yeah.
So, question mark on that. I would, if it's of the Apple Watch, I would buy that in a heartbeat. I love the rose gold. I think it's gorgeous. If it was rose gold in the style of, some of the rose gold jewelry, I would be less inclined.
Yeah, super interesting. But I do like that they're expanding the palette. And I think the funniest thing for me is that back 2 years ago, I think iMore was one of the first sites to talk about the upcoming gold iPhone, and people were like, "No, no way, it'll never happen. This is hideous, gross." A lot of them, Peter Cohen, would just complain nonstop about it. But then when it came out, people who were making fun were like, "Oh my God, I can't get one. I have to have one," because it was the one that looked different. It proved to everybody that you had the new iPhone because the other one looked very similar. And it turns out that we care more about how something looks than we care about new features like Force Touch or cameras a lot of the time. So
Yeah.
I think Apple might have learned that the biggest update they can do really is skin deep on these devices, and having a new color bolsters excitement and sales in a way that sometimes even new features don't.
I think that a lot of people want to say that you have the newest, greatest, best product that's out there, and I think that that happened with the gold. I think also with being able to be exclusive, and it was really difficult to get, also made a huge difference for the gold watch. And I have to say, I have to take my hat off to Apple that they did it in a way that was tasteful. This was not a gaudy, really strong gold, strong in its yellows. It's really subdued. It looks really classy. So I would do a dusty gold roll, the same thing as Serenity. If it was the same thing as the Apple Watch, I would be interested.
Some former staffers at iMore have privately gone on record saying they want the brightest Hello Kitty pink possible.
I know Rich Stevens would really love like a bright pink iPhone, but we're talking more like iPhone 5C pink and
to
not
match his watch, though,
necessarily.
right?
Oh yeah, no question.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I hope there is a new color because again, it does make for a more exciting S year. Take a quick break so I can tell you about Red Hat. Tried, tested, and trusted. Okay, so maybe it's not news that supported open source is now widely accepted at the highest levels of enterprise computing, but the extent of adoption is probably news to you. And most of the open source running in elite data centers right now is Red Hat. It's more than just Red Hat Enterprise Linux. If you've been working in enterprise for any length of time, you've heard of Red Hat Enterprise Linux too. But Red Hat offers storage solutions, cloud computing, everything you need for application development, all open source, all enterprise grade. Red Hat runs in every executive department of the US federal government, every airline, every telco, every healthcare company in the Fortune Global 500, the New York Stock Exchange, and every commercial bank in the Fortune 500. More than 90% of all the companies in the Fortune 500 use Red Hat for everything from the critical to the routine. Open source software, if you use the iPhone, if you use the Mac, you're using open source software, you're using the Darwin kernel, you're using the FreeBSD, the BSD Unix networking layers, you're using WebKit, rendering engine in your browsers. This is all free software. What Red Hat does is it takes the stress out of managing it. It's almost as if Red Hat snuck in, got comfortable, and quietly transformed the technology business without making a fuss. Sometimes the most disruptive technology is the stuff no one notices at first. To find out more about how Red Hat is quietly redefining enterprise technology, visit redhat.com. Build on it, run with it, count on it. Thank you, Red Hat. A couple quick things before we move on. Apple Retail, Serenity. I mean, it really is the end of the iPod era.
I really have no words. I just have a sad tear.
It is the end of the iPod.
No!
iPod.
Bum, bum, bum,
For those who are
bum,
just
bum.
listening on audio, I'm caressing my original iPod Classic.
Shelter
Everything is-
ears
Not even
from
a classic. It's just an iPod. 5 GB.
Shelter its ears from our talk right now.
Everything is going according to my design.
I'm spinning the wheel in sadness.
Pick up
No,
your
you know
multi-punch
what?
and strike it down.
Oh.
The iPod has been on its way out for many, many years, and it makes me sad because I love it. I love it so. I think it will be sort of reinvented in the Apple Watch and in that kind of accessory category, where if we're talking about hyper-portable music in a small container, we're going to see more of that. Even the Beats brand, we might even see like maybe you can upload Apple Music playlists to your Bluetooth headphones at
They're
some
big
point.
enough.
Yeah, exactly. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we see the contents of the iPod move into various places. We've already seen it in software.
Oh, we didn't say what was happening. And people might be panicking that they're canceling.
Yes, everyone thinks that there's no more iPods now.
No. They're still iPods. They're removing the displays from the Apple retail stores and making it more of a sideline item
On the shelf.
which is sad.
Yeah, it's joining the iPhone cases on the accessory shelves. I feel like it's Toy Story, like the little animated iPod's gonna wake up and it's gonna be sitting next to the iPhone cases. It's gonna wonder if Andy loves it anymore, but by Andy it means Apple retail.
See, I don't feel any hardship about this. I don't know. I think that it's the natural way of things. We no longer need them. I know it sounds harsh, but we really no longer need iPods. You can use your phone as an iPod. You can put an iPod mode on your phone so that you can use no other systems except for music. If you wanted to, we could do that
It's just
instead
an app. It has no feelings. Your people are crazy.
Exactly. Really, the necessity to that is minimal, and I think that we'll still have it for a little while, but.
All right, then what about this? The iTunes Festival is changing names to the Apple Music Festival. Does that mean that you won't be able to leave with it? You'll have to just stream it and enjoy it while it's going on?
It's a good question.
Oh, that is a good question. I don't know.
I was just being facetious. So it's the iTunes Festival that everyone knows and loves, but now it's the Apple Music Festival. It makes sense to me because Apple's putting all their weight behind the Apple Music label and not the iTunes label anymore. Could it be the end of iTunes? Could we see a day when iTunes is just not mentioned anymore and everything is Apple Music?
No, I actually think that they're going away from iTunes as a program and turning iTunes into a platform. So I still think iTunes has a prominent place as a store because I can't see them getting rid of buying things forever. I feel like there's always going to be a store.
Will it be called the iTunes Store or will it become the Apple Music Store?
Because if they ever unify their catalogs, maybe. The problem right now is that the iTunes catalog and the Apple Music catalog are two very different catalogs with two very different breadths of music. iTunes Store has pretty much everything in existence at this point, with a few notable holdouts, whereas the Apple Music catalog is missing some premier names due to the streaming nature, including people like Neil Young and the Beatles. Until those all get unified together, I would be really surprised if they started mixing their names for things. I don't know. I feel like I don't know.
It just feels like I is on the way out and Apple's on the way in.
We are seeing the death of the I. I wonder if the iMac will just become the Mac. That would be. I know, right?
Oh, mind.
Is it the only computer in the lineup that still has the I at this point?
Yeah, no more iBooks.
Introducing the Mac.
The Mac.
Reintroducing like the Macintosh, yeah.
I can see that meeting. I have this thing called a LaFerrari, and I think that really works. So, all right. So, Georgia, you brought this up. There was a data breach at Ashley Madison, and then another one last night, twice the size. Oh, not data. So the results of the data breach are being made public. At the same time, Spotify has a terms of service that came out that was portrayed as scary. It really wasn't, but it showed that companies still don't know how to talk about this stuff. It was as big a blunder as all the Google and Facebook terms of services blunders of the past. And you said that it might resonate with people when you compare it to how Tim Cook's been handling privacy.
Right, and I think that now people appreciate after this. People really appreciate Tim Cook talking about how privacy is one of the biggest issues, and we need to make sure that all of our information is kept safe. And I think that it is a really important decision that people have to make about what they put online, what programs that they use, and when you click through those, terms and agreements, where is your data going? And I think that Tim Cook said it exceptionally well about this is what we need to be discussing. I think that we need to take this much more seriously. And it really makes me appreciate using Apple products. It makes me appreciate having to wait to make sure that all of my home automation products that I'm dying to buy, but that they're all also secure and safe. And it's worth the wait to make sure that everything that you have, your home, your data, your security, your privacy is there, because this can ruin lives. And you can say that, well, for Ashley Madison, they've asked for it. They deserve it because this is a website mainly for people that are cheating on people. But this is about data altogether, and for some people this isn't that they were cheating, this may be that they were doing other things. So it's still people's privacy that we're messing with, and it is their lives. So even if they're doing wrong things, I think that we need to take privacy much more seriously.
Agreed. You know what? The thing that I've been hearing a lot from people about the Ashley Madison hack is what you were saying, Georgia. The like, oh well, they deserved it. And as much as I think that married dating sites are reprehensible and the idea skeeves me out, no one deserves to have their lives ruined. Of course, there's been a big thing. There's been a lot of military addresses revealed that were registered, and infidelity is a crime in the military.
Yeah,
so even exactly, well, you can be discharged, you can be jailed. Like that's very a big deal for people. But the biggest thing, actually, the thing that sort of struck home to me was there was a post on Reddit, and I don't know the validity of this, but it was a man from a Middle Eastern country who was in America for a few months and signed up for Ashley Madison as a gay man, being like, well, Saudi Arabia, they do not look kindly on being gay, so I'm going to join a private site so that I can, date people while I'm in the U.S. And now that he's back in Saudi Arabia and the leak has happened, he's like, how do I get out and claim asylum before they murder me for being gay? And that's terrifying, frankly. I don't know, even if it's not true, even the idea of such is just, it's not okay to have our privacy compromised, even if it's, whistleblowing on companies is one thing. I feel like whistleblowing on the average citizen, the average user of a site, just because you don't agree with their moral policies, unless it's child pornography, unless it's something that is, I don't know, even report it to the cops, I don't know. Publicly shaming people.
Could sign up for Ashley Madison using someone else's email address.
Yeah, there's no email verification.
Yeah.
Right.
Not unless you have a paid account, correct?
And then yes, you'll have a paper trail to that, but it can still destroy people's political careers. It can destroy people's military careers, because even the air of doing something that might be, a little bit nefarious, can ruin people. And so I think that that's really sad. I think that it's also sad this causes a lot of anxiety, because people are checking up on their mates and the people that they care about. And I think that that's also not great for the way that we deal with cohesive relationships. And so it just, this is so important. We really need to have, I think that we do a lot of things with people's data that we think, well, we can, so we do, and we don't really think, should we?
It's interesting to me too, because like to Serenity's point about being outed, I mean that can get you in severe repercussions, physical and mental, but anywhere, almost anywhere in the world still, because we live, when we live. But the idea of it too, people are in there putting in names of people. You can't unknow that information. Like you might, in the moment of a peak of curiosity, want to see, I wonder if so and so, and you'll never unknow that. And that knowledge can be a burden. Like it's not always a good thing. But beyond all that, I think there's a little bit of schadenfreude involved, because the guy who runs Ashley Madison was saying how absolutely secure all the data was when it wasn't. And people who are getting caught are some of the big staunch conservative family values people, which creates a lot of schadenfreude, because we're like, and this has happened previously. This has happened with people being caught in restrooms and things. It's like the more you're vocally about something, quite often, if you live a completely opposite lifestyle, that is going to get found out. So there's this duality, Georgia, of like some people believe that there is no expectation of privacy on the internet anymore. Other people believe that you still got to be respectful of it. And Apple's tactic is like, this is what we're going to do. And so far they've been willing to like give up on features. Like they don't offer features to compete with Google now because they don't want our data on their servers. They destroy iMessages. Like iMessage will try to deliver to all of your devices. I forget if it's 10 or 14 days now, but after that period it's gone. Like you can't recover it. And some people are upset they can't recover it, but you have to. Every decision is it better to have data protection or to have data security? And they're often at odds. And Apple is choosing most of the time, like even on the new iCloud features, they rolled out new iCloud features last week that lets you go in and restore files and photos. But after 30, I think it's 30 for files, 40 for photos, they're just gone. And no one can get them back. And they believe that's the only way to really keep them safe. And it's interesting to see how companies are trying to differentiate. Like some are offering universal retention on everything forever, never lose a file again. Others are like, we're not going to store this on our servers, so that even if we do get hacked, your data is not at risk.
Yeah, I think that even the way that we write terms and services has to be changed, because they're most of the time it's in legalese. You don't really understand it. There's 30 to 60 pages at times. No one's going to read through it, and everyone knows that no one's going to read through it. So they stick all of these. I was using the application Waze. My husband actually was, because it's interesting because it goes through like if there's traffic stops and if there's an accident, and so you get all of this information that is wonderful, and it's kind of like service through other people saying yes or no. But then I actually read through terms and services, and then I'm reading through it all, and I'm like, this is a privacy nightmare. This is horrific, and they keep it forever, and there's no really way to delete the stuff that they have, and they are tracking you. And I'm like, you know what? I deleted the application, and I'll just rather use just Apple Maps to be able to get there. And it's one of those things that we need to have it changed. We need to have the way that we deal with acceptance, and we need the governments to actually take a look at what is privacy. What do people have a right to versus what does a company have a right to?
Well, the government wants that information, Georgia. They're not on our side anymore.
But that has to change. It has to change. Really, it's supposed to be to protect the people, not to protect the governments and to protect lobbyists in large companies.
We'll partner with AT&T and we'll protect you better.
Oh.
I've had this discussion before, mentioned on this show, but when I talk to people, I ask them, like, do you use Instagram? And they say yes, and they go, well, show me the account. And then you press on the location button, and you see the highest density of photos, and you press on that, and you see the highest density, and after a couple presses, you're on their house.
Yep. Which is insane to me.
But they don't tell you to turn this off, and it's ridiculous.
The fact they don't even know. That's the sad part, is most people don't even know.
They just see, add to image map. Yeah, cool, I'd like to see that. They don't, I wouldn't mind if Instagram did this either as a private feature, being like, track where you've taken all of your photos, or as a feature that, remember a couple of years back, Apple was slammed because it was keeping private, localized to device, satellite or GPS locations, so you could see like little bloops of where your phone moved around. But those were very generic. Those were big and blown up and not localized on a specific area. Facebook does this too, although Facebook at least has the courtesy to make your location only visible to you unless you say otherwise. But still, these kinds of things, this is a lot of data that users don't realize that they're giving away.
And this could open you to stalkers. It could open you to God knows when the solicitors will figure out this stuff, and suddenly you'll have packages arriving at your house.
Absolutely. Too. Well, exactly.
Yeah, it's really scary to me. And the thing about so right now there's this thing going on with Spotify, because they changed their terms of service to say that they might ask your permission to access your photos, your contacts, and other information. And people lost their minds because we've been through this with Facebook, and we've been through this with Instagram and with Google, and we haven't learned. So Spotify was absolutely wrong because they didn't explain why, and they thought it was a product thing. Like they're going to add the ability for you to, like Apple's doing with Apple Music, to take a photo and add that as a cover art for your playlist, and they might add the feature for you to share those playlists with your contacts. So for them, this is a technology thing. They're not understanding the humanity of it, which is you have to justify to me even if the suggestion is that you want my information, you've got to tell me. And eventually on Twitter, he got into a fight with another CEO and said that's probably why they're doing it. But it was poorly executed. Then it was poorly reported because everyone's like, oh my God, Spotify, cancel your account, and then we react to it not in our best interest, but we either become hysterical or we say it's not a big deal. And it is a big deal, but we shouldn't become hysterical. But
And
it's
it's
just
up to them, though, to say what they're not going to use our information for. I think that a lot of companies now are trying to be really open-ended so that they can deal with marketing and they can deal with third-party.
Even moving servers, like they have legal ass coverage because they might decide to buy a new server and they need the ability to move your data from one server to another, but they don't think about how you're going to interpret the way that they're writing that down.
Because they don't figure that anyone's going to read it. I think that slowly we're realizing that this is really important, and now we carry our phones with us everywhere. The things that we take photos of, this all go. I can take a look at people who you follow on Twitter, and I can figure out, like, what is your political affiliations, what are the things that you're important with, what are the advertisers that you like, what are the stars that you deal with, what type of music do you listen to, and that's just on Twitter. So now, if we're talking about an aggregate of data of where you travel to, what you listen to, who are your friends, who are not your friends, where are you going, this tells me almost everything about who you are. And that's information that should be private unless you choose otherwise, not the other way around.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very frustrating, and I know, Georgia, you just started watching Mr. Robot, right?
Yes.
I feel like
yes.
You want to talk about a. Yeah, you want to talk about a show that is very, very conscientious about what we are and are not sharing and just how much that opens us up to vulnerability. I kind of hope that everybody watches the show and realizes, oh yeah, boy, I do share a whole lot about myself online. I actually did a talk earlier this year at the Yosemite conference about this, called Thinking with Pictures, which is, all about, I love sharing photos about myself online, but at the same time, you've got to know what you're giving away. You have to know, what image you're presenting to the world, and is it an image that can be co-opted if, God forbid, you get doxxed or you get harassed or you get targeted by a hate group. Like, there's a lot out there. The internet is a wonderful place, but it's also a potentially really scary place.
Our friend John Fingus from Engadget sent us an email last week saying that someone was using a photo of Georgia from iMore to advertise their product on Indiegogo. So I mean, people.
What was I advertising?
I don't remember, but it was just some product that they just had a picture. Like, it was just one of the iMore pictures that we have up, and.
Okay. What am I advertising for?
It actually didn't ask you first?
No. They just take these things.
We're going to take a short break so I can tell you about lynda.com, the online learning platform with over 3,000 on-demand video courses to help you strengthen your business, technology, and creative skills. For a free 10-day trial, visit lynda.com/iMore. That's lynda.com/iMore. So what is Lynda? Lynda is for problem solvers, for the curious, for people who want to make things happen. Maybe you want to master the brand new version of Microsoft Office. Maybe you want to learn how to negotiate. You want the tactics to do that. You want to build a website. You want to learn how to use Photoshop. You want to learn how to use a camera on full-on manual mode. Whatever it is that you want to learn, just go to lynda.com and feed your curious mind. So I've likened lynda.com before to the Matrix. You just jack right into it. You say, I want to fly a helicopter. I want to learn Kung Fu. It's not quite at that science fiction level yet, but is the closest thing we have in our day and age. You can watch and learn from top experts who are passionate about teaching. You can stream thousands of video courses on demand. You can learn at your own schedule. You can learn at your own pace. The courses are structured so you can watch from start to finish or just consume them all in bite-sized pieces. Oftentimes, I don't have time to watch a whole course, so what I'll do is I'll quickly find the problem I have, and almost all the time the solution is there. I can just watch that piece and get on with editing my podcast or my video or the photo that I'm working on. Anything like that. It's just super easy, super convenient. It's like Google, but the person actually comes up and tells you how to fix it, and not just a crappy YouTube video screenshot of someone, meandering the way about it. A professional, the best people in the world, telling you specifically how to get it done. You can browse each course transcript, follow along. You can search for answers. You can skip to that point. You can take notes and refer to them later. You can download tutorials and watch them on the go on your iPhone, on your iPad, on Android. You can create and save playlists of the courses you want to watch. You can customize your learning path. You can even, if you work in a business, you can get this for the entire business, because smarter workers are better workers, and learning new skills more easily is better for everybody. So here's what I want you to do. Your lynda.com membership will give you unlimited access to training on hundreds of topics, all for one flat rate. Whether you're looking to become an industry expert, you're passionate about a hobby, or you just want to learn something new, I want you to visit lynda.com/imore and sign up for your free 10-day trial. That's lynda.com/imore. All right, so questions. We have a few questions. I'm going to start with the Twitter thing. Serenity, do you think Apple will update the Airport Extreme because now Google has a new router they designed? They're talking about Google's new, what is it, the One
Yes, the
Hub?
OnHub.
OnHub, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope they do. I don't know if they're going to redesign it specifically in response to Google, but I'm actually kind of hoping that the new Apple TV might have Extreme-like features, so we aren't buying constant different boxes. But that said, I don't know the timeline for Apple. I mean, Apple last refreshed the Extreme last year, 2 years ago?
I think it was it was like a throwaway at Dub.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, P.S. We have a new Extreme now. That said, that they haven't seemed disinterested in these products. They just get sort of refreshed kind of sporadically. So it's entirely possible we may see some this year. It's entirely possible we might see some next year. I don't think it's out of the question. I don't know that it's necessarily top on their list either.
Yeah, it's interesting. It looks a lot like the Amazon Echo, and Google makes a big deal about how it looks beautiful enough that you can leave it out in the open because it's got like the glowing. It looks like George's background. It's got glowing lights and stuff. But the minute you start plugging a router into it and you start plugging your cable line into it, it doesn't look like you want to leave it out in the open anymore. So we'll have to see how that works. So we've gotten this question a lot, and I'll preface it by saying the person who's asking this question does not believe Tim Cook's answer that the components were being harder to source. So this is iMatty. He wants to know why Apple removed the iPod Classic from the product list, and he does not believe Tim Cook when Tim Cook says components are harder to find.
Oh, well, I mean, you cannot believe Tim Cook if you want. Tim Cook was a product guy for many years, and he kind of knows that area backwards and forwards. But let's just say for a second that Tim Cook is out and out lying to analysts and stockholders. Even if they were hard drive platters, specifically 2.5-inch hard drive platters, are not the norm anymore. Yeah. And if you're talking about the Classic was one of the few devices that still had a hard drive in it and not flash SSD to keep the cost down. As a result, trying to make those, I think, in any kind of fashion and trying to get people to build 2.5-inch platters or source 2.5-inch platters that were to the quality that Apple usually likes when building these sorts of devices, you can believe that Tim Cook's lying. I'm of the opinion that there's probably at least a kernel of truth to that.
Yeah, and also I think it's important to point out that
1.5-inch platters. Yes, Rene corrected me online. Yes.
I was trying to be all subtle. You can choose not to believe Tim Cook because Apple has enough money that they could make all this stuff. Like they could just build a factory and make 1.5. They could do anything, but when Tim Cook says they can't source stuff, it means they cannot source enough of them at the proper price to service whatever market they think in a way that makes sense and money for Apple. So it's a more complicated answer. Of course, they could get the parts. They could make the parts. They could have Johnny Ive sit there and weave the parts, but it just doesn't make sense for them as a business anymore, especially in a world with 128 gigabyte iPod Touch in it. And I don't think we'll ever see the likes of the Classic again. Georgia, Leighton Smith does not get why a new Apple TV needs to come with a remote control. We have Siri now. We have apps on our iOS devices. Do we still need a physical remote control for a doodad on our TV?
I think that people are still attached to having a remote control. I think that technology has to have a pace with it that people are going to be comfortable with. So anytime we move too quickly, then people get a lot of anxiety with that. So do we need it? We don't need to. But I think that a lot of people are comfortable with having a physical device that they can touch, they can hold, and of course they can lose behind the couch and not be able to find. But I think that slowly we're going to be moving from needing physical remote controls. People don't like them. But right now, I think that people are still comfortable with their little tiny Apple remotes. They're cute, they're adorable, it makes it easier for me. And I hate having to try with
I want to interrupt you, but I want, because you have a gaming podcast, so you are perfectly positioned to answer this. Let's say that it is a bigger remote control that has some form of pressure sensitivity on it, maybe some buttons like for volume and stuff like that, and you could theoretically use it to game with without having to have an iOS device. Because like telling Siri to turn Pac-Man left, hey Siri, turn Pac-Man right, would not be fun.
No, That wouldn't be fun at all. That would be really stressful.
Sorry, you didn't get that, Georgia.
I said to turn, calling Rene Ritchie. Yes, it's just a horrible thing. No, I think that would be an interesting idea, but I'm still happy with my little tiny Apple remote. I'm just comfortable with it. I like using it. I like searching for it. But if not, I can always use my phone. But no, I don't think I would want a game on it. I think that would be something that, I don't know, maybe, but then I would want physical buttons because I don't like a touch screen for gaming. It's not great. If you have a
Well,
D
you'll have
button,
both. You'll have some touch and you'll have some buttons on it.
then I would be interested. But
The perfect
would
world.
it interface with different systems and like, I don't know. That might be interesting though, because there's a lot of games that I play on my iPad or on my phone, which I'm like, I wish that I had a physical button to be able to play these games. So if it did that and it was my remote, that would be awesome. But then I'd be fighting for the remote all the time because I'd want
A couple. It'd be like a Wii. Just get a couple of them.
Yes, exactly.
Or you have like Ren, I use my watch all the time for Apple TV.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'd use my watch to game on an Apple TV though. I think it would just not be ideal.
Yeah.
Watch the game.
No, I feel like it's far too small. I don't know what I would. And also,
You could only
holding
use one hand.
holding your arm up. Yeah, exactly.
You'd
I
have to,
wouldn't.
you know-
That sounds like the worst 1980s keypad ever.
1980s nightmare.
Yeah, exactly.
My guess is you have to have a controller because you can never make assumptions that people like Siri just will never be reliable enough. Even if it's 98% reliable, that 2% will drive you out of your mind. And iOS devices are always an alternative, but you can't rely on them. So there'll be a controller. Apple has technology now to make a really amazing controller. Apple still, I don't think, gets gaming, but if it has a game store and a bunch of other stuff on it, I live in eternal hope.
And plus, sometimes you want to change channels and do other things without, even if Siri was 100% reliable, there are times when you don't want to be speaking out loud about doing things because people are having a conversation. You want to change what's happening, or someone else is on the phone dealing with something. And so I think that discretion is also a secondary reason why having a physical controller is nice.
I can just picture the battle. Hey Siri, switch it to master. No, hey Siri, switch it to you. No, you shut up. No, you shut up. And then it looks like a giant rumble with Homer Simpson losing the rest of his hair.
Right, now we just fight for the controller, but that's one battle. Once you've won, you know you've won.
Anthony North wants to know, can you please explain what system on a chip actually means? I'll do that really quickly. So traditionally, you'd have a whole bunch of different components that would be laid out on a motherboard. What a system on a chip does is it takes that entire system, that entire set of chips that runs the device, and puts them together onto one chip. So you have the central processing unit, you have the graphics processing unit, some of them sandwich RAM in between it. It makes for a much smaller, much better integrated package. The Apple Watch takes it further and puts almost the entire computer on a chip. So it's just something that makes everything more efficient. We have a little bit of follow-up. So last week we were asked, a guy was sent an adorable baby sound on messages, and he wanted to turn it into a text tone. And it turns out, he found out that if you open messages on a Mac, you can just basically copy and paste the sound. You copy it from messages, you paste it into a Finder window, and then you have the file, and you can do with that what you want, including making that adorable baby sound into your tone. Import. All right, so here's another question. I have a question on photos for Yosemite. I have 2 photo app libraries. One of them is my main library, and everything is synced to my iPhone and vice versa. My other library is much larger, and I'm afraid to import it. I'm considering importing it overnight, but I'm concerned that everything I import will end up on my iPhone, iPad. Is this correct? With having iCloud enabled in Photos.app.
I got lost halfway through that.
So he has Antonio has 2 libraries. One of them is already in Photos.app, and he syncs that with his iPhone and iPad. He has a much larger secondary library that he wants to import. And I don't even know if you can still import libraries that way into Photos.
You cannot import libraries on top of libraries. What you can do is export everything from that secondary library and then import those folders into your master library.
Yeah, but if you do, it's syncing everything. Like if you put all those photos in, those photos will also sync.
Correct.
So I think Ren has a how-to up on how to keep a second library in Photos.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can have your big library that doesn't sync, because there's only one library can be associated with iCloud Photo Library.
Correct.
Yeah.
Your big library where you just keep everything locally and you have backups, and then you have the library that you want to see on all of your devices.
All right, so I last week I was, and this is what happens when I'm mean to Georgia. So Georgia was on vacation, and American Express announced that American Express corporate cards work with Apple Pay, and I have such a card. So I quickly added it to my phone. And because I live in Canada, so it's the first time I've ever had Apple Pay. So I quickly go to Georgia, ha ha, I have Apple Pay, and then I sent her a picture of Apple Pay on my watch, and she's like, die, 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 which I think is
Yes.
German for the. I'm not
No,
sure.
no, it wasn't.
So I set all this up, and then I went to pay, and it was like, card not recognized, card not recognized. And again, turns out Canada does not support American Express. Like none of the NFC terminals have any support whatsoever for American Express. They're all Visa, PayWave, and MasterCard, whatever, tap to pay systems. So I am still Apple Pay. I have Apple Pay in theory, but not in fact.
You know, I can't wait till we get Apple Pay. So I understand your excitement, Renee. So I'm sad that you can't use it. I wish that you could, though I would still be angry at you for when you got to use it when I didn't, because I know you do it in front of me all the time.
Flying Badger visited us from the U.S. and said that it worked great at the Ontario Liquor Commission and at Shoppers Drug Mart. So thanks,
Well,
Flying Badger.
thanks for your success story. I was searching away for my card in my purse. I had dropped it down and it had fallen, and I thought, "Ah, you know what? I can't wait till I don't have to do this anymore. I can just, with a swipe of a wrist, buy my, $17 venti latte, no milk frappuccino.
Al Pacino.
It's more
Uh,
expensive.
all right, so I'll ask this one to Serenity because this question comes up every year or so. Serenity, this is from Craig on Twitter. Does anyone think Apple needs its very own search engine so that it no longer has to rely on Google or Bing? Sorry, Bing.
I mean, all right. So Apple is kind of doing this already with Siri, in that the new Siri screen that we'll see in iOS 9, as well as sort of Siri and Proactive's expanded options for giving you theoretically search results that are primed to what you might be doing at that part of the day. They're already kind of trying to pull away from Google at that point, and the news sourcing, for instance. I don't know if they would ever build their own like apple.com/search. I don't think that's what they want to do. I think if they're going to do anything like that, they're going to turn Spotlight into more of an intelligent search bar and maybe bypass Google for certain hook into other services. I don't think we're ever going to completely rid ourselves of Bing or Google or anything like that. Apple has more interesting projects on their mind. But I do think they're trying to take away as much of the search traffic as they can that might give Google or Bing personal data information. So restaurant searches, movie times, things that might reveal what you do with your day.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think Apple right now is really happy intermediating all that knowledge because that's where the value lies is in the data, and all Google or Bing really sees is Apple asking for stuff, not for us asking for the stuff anymore. And Apple doesn't really care about our data. So in essence, I like the way that it is now. And just because Apple could do something doesn't mean they have to or that it'll do it well. And the worst thing that could happen is Apple splitting its focus, trying to do a massive search engine project, it not being a good search engine because it's not their forte. So I'm happy with the current world. And let the little Apple bot scurry around the internet cutely on his own. All right, phew, Q&A finished. Serenity, if people want to go and get that Apple book, where can they go?
They can go to iMore.com. The Apple Music book is, our post is right in the top left corner. You can also go to the iBook store and search iMore Editors or Apple Music, The Ultimate Guide, and you can search the same thing on Amazon to pull up that book. And you can find me on Twitter at Cern if you have any questions about such bookery. Also, because I did not mention it at the top of the show, if you pre-ordered the book, first and foremost, thank you. That was really awesome, and we were thrilled to see so many people pre-order. Unfortunately, due to a mix-up with iTunes, we had to create a second record for the book. And that means that anybody who pre-ordered, we can't fulfill those. So your credit card was not charged. They don't charge it until we actually send a file on over. So if you want to get the book, just ignore your pre-order, cancel your pre-order, and buy the book at our new link. We're really bummed and we're really sorry about this. It's just really a really silly goof and error in iTunes that I have now written very angrily to iTunes support about and filed a radar, and hopefully that will never be an issue again. But thank you for pre-ordering. That meant a lot to us.
Awesome. And at Settern, Settern.
Yes.
Awesome. What about you, Georgia? Where are you these days? Not fighting sharks anymore?
No, you can catch me on the podcast Isometric, and we have relaunched Vector.
Whew.
Vector is back, so you can see me there, and also on Twitter, it's at Georgia_Dow.
Can I just say the conversation you and Ashley Nelson Hornstein had on Diversity at Apple was brilliant on Monday. I really enjoyed it. Thank you guys for that.
Thank you so much. And I should probably also say that we are also, from my work, we're launching a video series of treating anxiety from home. So you can check that out. It's anxiety-videos.com, and you can buy your own home sessions to manage your own anxiety.
Now, when you say anxiety from home, is it anxiety that you can learn about from home or anxiety caused when you are at home?
Could be for both, but it's like a home session. I think that a lot of people find going in, one is it's really expensive to go in and see a personal therapist, and I think that for other people, they still worry about having a stigma or, the entire rigmarole of trying to find the right person. So this is your way of being able to do it from the comfort of your own home and go through what we would teach you in the sessions. And the wonderful thing of this is that you can get it for a friend that you know needs it, but would not, be able to go through with it, or if you have like a social anxiety, you may not be able to leave the home. And so this, you could treat it on your own. So I think that it's a nice way to reach people that may not otherwise be reached.
You can just nicely leave it for them in their mailbox that you found using Instagram.
You could, but you should talk to them before you buy it, and then talk to them about why you're giving it to them, because I think that also people might take it really poorly.
It's like buying hygiene products for people.
Right. It's like the little deodorant stick or something. You talk to them about it, but you should live without this. It just destroys lives. So we're happy to be able to do that.
I have a story about that I'm not going to share on this show, but I'll share it afterwards. Just all it involves is someone looking at you aghast, going, "But we are sportsmen." Let the imagination fill in the rest. You can find me at Rene Ritchie. You can find all of us at iMore. You can find the show on iTunes for the audio version. The video version is at youtube.com/iMoreVideo. We will be back next week with more jam-packed action. Ren, Georgia, thank you so much. This was delightful.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, watchers and readers.
And I want to lastly thank lynda.com, the online learning platform, over 3,000 on-demand video courses to help you strengthen your business, technology, and creative skills. For a free 10-day trial, visit lynda.com/iMore. That's lynda.com/iMore.